All right, we are looking at 9.6. There it goes. And 9.6 master learning objective is I can use technology to solve systems of equations. So we've done this before. Again, this is also another kind of review thing where we are going to be graphing these to see what they look like. So our first one is y equals 2 to the x and y equals 2x. Okay, so I am going to put both of these in my graphing calculator, and we are actually going to graph these functions. So our first one was 2 to the x. Okay. And again, in order to nicely graph it, I'm going to go to that table. Okay. And I can get some values here. I'll start at 0, 1, because otherwise it's decimals, and we don't really like decimals. Not what I wanted. So our first point was 0, 1. Our next point is 1, 2. Our next point here is 2, 4. Our next point is 3, 8. I believe our next point is 4, 16. Yep, which is off the graph, right? 4, 16 is off the graph. So I'm going to leave it like that. And again, I'm going to make it look like an exponential function. All right, our second equation is y equals 2x. So going back to here, I'm going to, that's not what I wanted. Still same document. Go back here. Menu. 7. Remove table, so that we can just see our graph. Hit tab, right, and that brings up our other one, and we're doing 2x. And that function looks like this. Now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go to the table, and I'm going to look at it again, right? Now if you look up here, 1, right, here's our x still. This is our y for our first function. This is our y for our second function. So we're going to want to look at just the red. Okay, so we're going to have to kind of go back and forth a little bit. We can start at -1, -2. Our next point was 0, 0. Our next point is right, here's our x, 1, 2. Our next point is 2, 4. Our next point is 3, 6, and we can probably keep filling them in without checking. 4, 8, 5, 10. Right, so we get this lovely line here. Now you have to be careful with how you draw, because this blue line, we might not have drawn it perfectly. If I really draw it really nicely, it should kind of go more like that instead of like this, right? If I'm really being careful about where I pass through those points, right? Like, that's probably the best one. So when we're looking for our answers, we're literally looking for the spot where we drew the same point. Okay, so I have one point where we put them exactly on the same place at 1, 2. And the other one, we put them on the same exact place at 2, 4. Okay. You can also do what we've done before where you go back to your graph, remove the table, and go menu, analyze, and find that intersection. Menu, analyze, intersection. Right, and there's one at 1, 2, and then menu, analyze, intersection. And there's our other one at 2, 4. Okay, so that's what we looked at. We looked at it that way before, so that's still an option for solving these. All right, let's look at our second example here. Number 2, sketch a graph of the given systems of equations. Label the solutions. So we have y equals 3 to the x minus 7. So I'm going to open a new document. I'm going to add a graph. Here's our graph for that one. Let's do the other one. Right here, it's y plus 6 equals 4x. Now we have to be careful with this one because we need it of the form y equals, and this is not y equals, it's y plus 6 equals. So before I can do anything, we have to subtract 6. Okay, that's what we're actually going to type into our calculator. So if I have that here, hit tab, right, again, that's up over here. So it's 4x minus 6. So we want to make sure we have y by itself before we try to type anything into our calculator. Enter. There's that one. Okay. Let's graph both of these. So table. All right, now here I can kind of see both at the same time. Again, our x value, first y value, second y value. So we're going to be very careful how we draw these. So our first point is at 1, -4. Let's see if I have other ones. Yeah, it starts going into a, right, we want to try and do anything we can before we get to decimals. So we're actually going to start at 0, -6. So 0, -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we look at our red graph, right, it's x is 0, and our y for our red graph is also -6. And already before I finish drawing these, I can tell that that's going to be a solution, right? Those are on the same spot. Let's continue to graph them though. 1, -4 is a blue point. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the red point was 1, -2. Our next blue point is 2, 2. Our next red point is also 2, 2. Our next blue point is 320. So 3 all the way up here somewhere, right? So it'd be off the graph. And then 3, 6 is our red point. Our next blue point is still going to be off the graph, 474, but 410 we could graph. And I think that's probably going to be it. So this red is a straight line. That's straight, we'll say. And and our blue is our exponential. Okay, and we already have our other point. Right, here they're graphed on the same point, and here they're graphed on the same point. So those are our answers, 0, -6, and 2, 2. All right, and that is it. I'll see you guys tomorrow.